All right, guys, we are live. This is the preview show being presented by Sherdog.com. I am your host. My name is Keith Schillen. I'm a writer for Sherdog.com. What I am previewing today is One Championship's debut live on American TV. That's the One Championship's new partnership with TNT. It is the Moraes versus Johnson card. It goes down on April 7th at live on TNT. The event is being held in Singapore in the early morning hours, but it is being broadcast live in America. 10 p.m. Eastern Time is when the main card kicks off. 7 p.m. on the West Coast. It also can be viewed on Bleacher Report app. You can watch it on the One Super app or the One Championship YouTube channel. However, those do have some restricted. It's restricted to certain countries, so make sure you check out, whatever country you live in, if you can get it on that. Yeah, I think it's really smart marketing by One Championship. They're kicking off, their presentation to American crowd with two big American, former American champions, Demetrius Johnson, Eddie Alvarez. There are some kickboxing matches on it, and if you like kickboxing, make sure you check that out. I am going to be honest, I don't follow kickboxing strong enough to really preview them, so I'm not even going to bother and fake it. There's other people who I'm sure will probably preview this and kind of give you kickboxing breakdown. I can't do that. Some things you might, if you haven't watched One Championship, you might want to know about it. There is a couple rule changes. Two of the major rules is they do allow knees to the head of a grounded opponent. That's something, in America, in UFC and Bellator, the unified rules we've called for knees to the head of the ground opponent. They allowed it in One Championship. The other thing you got to remember, they don't follow the 10-9 must system. So they don't go round by round. They judge the fight as a whole. So while in America, we might, watch one fighter win 2 rounds and the other guy win 1 and think, okay, that guy wins. No, if the third round is very decisive, it's way bigger, and one fighter wins 2 rounds are very close, but the other fighter wins the third round huge. That fighter can win the whole fight because they're scoring the entire fight. It's a small card. It's only 4 fights that we're going to be breaking down. I'm going to give my prediction. I'm going to break down all the fighters. I'm going to give my predictions. I'm also going to give my lock of the night, my upset of the night, and my pick for the best fight. So let's start off the prelims. There's 2 prelim fights. The first one, we have Omar Kane versus I'm already messing up the Middle Eastern name, Mahedi Bargi. Kane is a perfect 2-0 in MMA. He's fighting out of Senegal, while Bahagi is 4-3. He was knocked out in his last fight against Kang Juwan in a back and forth, really fun matchup. It was over in the first round, but it was really fun. Kane is a negative 365 favorite. He's a massive favorite, while Bahagi is a plus 275 underdog. Let's get into their actual styles. Kane is a massive heavyweight. He is huge. He's a physical freak. He's insanely strong. Just look pictures of this guy. He's got muscle on muscle on muscle. He's like a Senegal Brock Lesnar. He weighs 265. He's athletic. He's 29, but he's young in the sport. He's only 2-0. On the feet, he's very raw. Still kind of learning on the job. His hands are slow, but it's because of a lack of technique. He stands up high, kind of arm punches. He throws wild. He can overreach to kind of land. He's one of those guys, if he's going to miss it, he'll overreach, kind of put himself out of position. But if he connects, just look at this guy. He connects. He can knock you out. I'm actually impressed by his kicks. He's got a fast high kick. That's due to just how great of an athlete he is. He has crushing, thudding leg kicks. We saw that especially in his first fight in his professional career. If he gets in close, he likes to do the collar tie, the classic wrestling, grab the back of the head, and then dirty boxing, something that, I think of Dan Henderson, I think of Randy Couture. These guys, really built a career around. Excuse me. That's something he does. He's also a good wrestler. That's his background. Good entries. He also will just pressed the opponent again. Like in his last fight, he just pressed his opponent against the cage, and he just scooped up a leg and just so strong. And that's all he needs. He gets one limb, he'll just pick you right up in the air and slam you. If it hits the ground, he's still kind of learning as he goes. So he'll get himself, like in a Kimura or something like that. But he's so massively strong is that he'll just muscle out of it. Like in his last fight, his opponent was going for a Kimura, and he just lifted him up and slammed him while his opponent had the Kimura. If he's on top, he has some of the scariest ground and pound with those he's got big hands, big clubs, just kind of ground and pounding. Move over to Bargy. Bargy on the feet, he's a brawler, I would say. Like he's a little ugly, not a big technique guy, more of just a brawler. He leans back to avoid strikes. He throws wildly. He doesn't really keep his feet underneath him, so he also, similar to Kane, throws a lot of arm punches without power. But he uses his striking to get to his wrestling range. He wants to wrestle. He's a good wrestler. This is a former Iranian national wrestling champion. That said, despite his wrestling credentials, when he's on top, he doesn't have that much control. Like, he will lose control. He's more looking for damage. He might be a little too wild. He's always going nonstop, and I think he needs to slow it down a little bit. If he's on top, solid ground and pound. Though if he gets reversed, he's on bottom. He really struggles. He's a wrestler. He doesn't like being on his back. And cardio is also the issue. I go back to his last fight against G1. It was a fun fight. He was doing well in the fight, but then he gassed out. He didn't conserve his energy, and that let G1 take over and get the finish. As far as prediction goes, Kane shouldn't be as big of a favorite as he is. He, just from his lack of experience, like, the line should be much closer. Like, I get it. He's a physical freak. He looks the part. He looks so good in his last fight. So I get it. Plus, when you add in Bargy's background in wrestling, that makes it interesting. However, Bargy is so inconsistent that I don't think he's the one to give Kane that early career loss. Kane is so freakishly strong. If he can get on top, I can't see Bargy getting up from bottom and escape from that ground and pound. That's exactly what I think is going to happen. So give me Kane by first round, particularly being on top, landing ground and pound. Now let's move on. The other prelim fight that is on this card, we have Tyler Maguire versus Raymond Magomedov. Now, guys, I apologize. These Eastern European names can be a little tough, but I think I got that one right. This is another battle between two wrestlers. Maguire has a 12-1 record. His only loss is when he fought for the one championship. Magomedov, he is 7-1 with his only loss coming to James Nakashima, who is also a very good wrestler out of America who's doing very well in one championship. Magomedov is a slight favorite at -150. Maguire is currently the underdog at +120. I'll start with Maguire. Maguire striking leaves a lot to be desired. It needs a little bit of work. He strikes to set up his wrestling. That's what he wants to do. He makes no, he doesn't try to trick anybody. He wants to take you down. He uses a in and out style. Like, he'll get in, land a strike, get back out, but he does that well to disguise his entry. Like, he's going to do that, and then he's going to enter on your hips. In one of his fights, though, he got his legs kicked out in the fight when he challenged for the title. He got his legs really kicked out of him, and that was probably one of the biggest differences in the fight, and it really slowed him down going deeper into the fight. Despite not being known for his striking, I like that he will surprise, because he's a good athlete. He'll surprise with like a spinning back fist or a spinning back kick. That surprises me. He's a good wrestler. He's a good grappler. He can get you to the ground with both entries on the hips or upper body locks. He's also very relentless to get him. If he misses a shot, he'll continue. He'll try it 2, 3, 4, 5 times till he gets it down. His entries are good. He's very physically strong, and we see that in his upper body takedowns. He'll work into a double underhook, just turn the corner with the body lock, get the takedown. He does struggle to keep his opponent down. He tends to ride a little high. I think that makes me think that when he was a wrestler growing up, he did a lot of leg wrestling. Leg wrestlers tend to ride a little high. That's what I can expect. Also, his pace slowed a lot in his fight when he fought for the title, which is disturbing. But this is only a 3-round fight, so that obviously might not factor in. Now move over to Magomedov. This is a 2-time Wushu world champion. He stands a little high. He needs to tuck his chin, but his boxing is pretty crisp. He throws straight punches down the pipe. He has some good pop in both of his hands, and he loves kicks. He throws kicks everywhere, calf kicks. He throws hard kicks. But the thing that I really love about this guy is his in close distance striking. He gets the plum clinch, knees up the middle. If you try to kind of turn it into a more wrestling plum, where you're trying to, you're pummeling and stuff, he does really good to press his opponent against the cage, frame, create a little bit of space, and then land a strike in that small space. Knees, elbows, really bad as his opponents in that way. He's got solid takedown defense, and he's also a submission threat in his takedown defense. His last fight against Joey Parada, I don't know if that was his last fight, but that was more recently. I apologize if that wasn't his last fight. Parada goes in for a takedown, and boom, he got yoked up in a guillotine choke, and the fight was over that instant. That's what he has. He can also wrestle himself, though he doesn't really use his offensive wrestling much. He more prefers to strike. He can get a takedown. This is a close line, and it's a close line for a reason. It's a tough call. McGuire is going to want to make it a wrestling match, which might backfire on due to how good Magomedov is in the close distance striking. Also, he has that guillotine. On the feet, Magomedov, I think, has all the tools. I think he has more tools on the feet. I think he has more avenues of victory. So I think he outworks McGuire in a fairly close fight, but I think Magomedov is going to be my pick. I will take him by decision. Now, those are the 2 prelim fights, MMA fights. There's another kickboxing match on that. Then we get to the main card. There's a kickboxing match, and then we have the 2 big matchups that most people will be excited for. And these are definitely the 2 fights that I'm most excited for. First up, Eddie Alvarez versus Yuri Lapicus. I'm sure Eddie Alvarez doesn't really need an introduction, but if you're not familiar with him, he's a former Bellator and UFC champion. However, since coming over to One Championship, he's had a little mixed results. He's 1-1. He lost his debut by knockout, but bounced back with a submission win in his last fight. Move over to Lapicus. He's only 25, has an impressive 14-1 record. But unlike Eddie, who won his last fight, Lapicus actually lost his last fight when he went against Christian Lee for the lightweight title. Now, I want to remind people, when I say lightweight, in One Championship, lightweight is 170, where here in America, welterweight is 170. So when I say lightweight, think more 170. Don't think necessarily lightweight versus welterweight. Alvarez is currently a pretty significant favorite at -225. Lapicus is the underdog at +190. Let's talk about Alvarez. First of all, he's undersized at 170. He spent most of his career at 155. The early portion of his career, he was 170. He talked about, I just interviewed him. He talked about, feeling much more hydrated, feeling better at 170, but he's still undersized. He's your classic wrestle boxer, tight boxing, a lot of shoulder rolling, a lot of feints. He's very good at cutting different angles while attacking. He's very good at bouncing off the center line when he's coming in. He loves to. One thing I love about Eddie Alvarez that is very unique to him is he loves to lead with his power strike. And what I mean by that is, now he's an orthodox fighter. A lot of people in the orthodox, they're going to throw the jab, the lead left jab. Eddie likes to lead with his right power, which surprises a lot of people because a lot of people are not expecting the right power to be the lead punch. If you're a southpaw, that would be your left hand. One thing that disturbs me about Eddie, though, is whether he wins or he loses, he has taken on ungodly amount of damage. I mean, think about the fights he's had. The 2 fights against Michael Chandler back in Bellator. That's 2 of the greatest fights of all time, but so much damage. The Justin Gaethje win, the 2 fights against Dustin Poirier, the Conor McGregor fight, even his fights in One Championship. He was knocked out in his first fight, and then his last fight against Edward Follioung Follioung hurt him, almost knocked him out. Follioung also dropped him with a leg kick right in the beginning of that fight. But despite all this damage that Eddie has taken over the years, Eddie has insane heart. He is one of that's why he's a fan favorite. Besides the wars, he can take a beating, will never give up. He is a good wrestler, though I do believe Eddie doesn't use it nearly enough. He'll use it in spurts, but it won't be like the major part of his game plan. The last time I remember where Eddie Alvarez, where the focal point of his strategy was wrestling, I think the last time it might have been Anthony Pettis in the UFC a very long time ago. Now, there might be one fight in there I might be forgetting about. But he is an underrated grappler. I mean, we just saw that in his last fight. Despite being on the bottom, he quickly got a sweep, actually moved him out, got rid of a naked choke on Follioung in his last fight, and it was very quickly how he was able to do that. Now, move that over to Lapicus. This is a guy born in Moldova, now lives in Italy. He's a very big welterweight. He's the opposite of Eddie Alvarez. He's a big, he's taller guy. He's only 25 years old. He's at the age, and I talk about that on a lot of the previous shows that I do with Ben Duffy, he's at the age where you make huge jumps in improvement between fight to fight. So you never really know a fighter at that age what you're going to see next. He is a fast starter. Out of his 14 wins, 13 of them have been stoppage wins in the very first round. And though he lost his last fight, let's not forget that he dropped Christian Lee with the very first punch he threw. Now, he has a very traditional Muay Thai style. If you know what I mean, the Muay Thai fighters. They tend to stand up a little straighter, and they kind of like just touch their toe, so they kind of light on their front foot. Now, that makes them a stationary target as they're right in front of their opponent, and that's really good for someone like Eddie Alvarez, who kind of cuts a lot of angles, so he can kind of attack from both sides against him. So that's the negative about that classic Muay Thai style. But the good thing is because of that light foot, the Muay Thai stylist guys are very good at turning their hips, getting it over really good. And we see that. That's such a big part of Lapilus' game. He throws hard kicks. I think about his fight against Murat. What's his name? Murat. What's his last name? Gafarov. Murat Gafarov. He was able to just kick out Gafarov's legs with calf kicks. He could go high with a head kick. He can go to the body with head kick. He also has some good power in his hands, and he's 25. So we might not even been seeing him really develop into their power. That's usually late 20s, early 30s is when a guy really develops his power. So we might be seeing more power added to Lapicus each fight. He has when it comes to grappling, he loves his judo throws. It's like every single fight, you get in close, he looks for an Uchimata where he's trying to, get his hips in, throw a guy. He's an okay wrestler, decent entries, though he was taken down by Christian Lee in his last fight, and he was taken down pretty easily, which you don't like. If he's on top, good ground and pound. He's got 10 submission wins, and he's got a wide variety. Even in his last fight against Christian Lee, he looked down for an Achilles lock. The one thing that is obviously disturbing is he has only gone past the first round one time. He ended up getting a stoppage in the third round, but he actually did greatly slowly decline in that fight, the one fight that he went past the first round. Now, prediction, this is my favorite fight on the card. I think this is going to be a war. I mean, it's Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez is always in a war. I expect both guys to land big shots. It is, to me, the no-brainer pick for fight of the night. That said, it's actually going to be my pick for upset of the night. Eddie Alvarez is 37. He's at the age where you decline, and he has so many miles. I mean, this isn't heavyweight where they tend to fight deeper, older. These guys are still successful in their late 30s, early 40s. This is 170 pounds. This is not the weight class where you age gracefully. Add in that his opponent is a young, hungry fighter, has both power and submissions. I don't like what I've seen of Eddie recently. Been hurt so many times, hurt both of his fights in one championship. I think the long time off might do him some good. Rest up, heal any injuries, obviously clear the brain a little bit. However, I think we might be seeing the beginning of the end for Alvarez. I think this is going to be the coming out party for Lapilus. I think this is where he's going to really introduce himself on TNT to the American crowd. Give me Lapilus to get another early first round KO This time, the biggest one of his career. I say Lapidus knocks out Eddie Alvarez, and this is my upset pick of the night. Now, with that said, let's move on to the main event. Another fight that I'm super excited about. Adrian Moraes versus Demetrius Johnson. Just seems really weird for Johnson to be a title challenger. We've seen him defending the title so many times, but that's what we have in this matchup. Moraes is the champion. He has been out. Moraes, he's been out for 2 years. He is coming off of the win where he won the title against Jiggy Istaquio. Johnson has lost one fight. Slow Johnson. Johnson has lost one fight since 2011. That was to Henry Cejudo in a fight that many thought he won. In that time, between 2011 until today, he has set the record for most title defenses in UFC history. He has moved up a weight class in one championship. In his 3-0 one championship, as his long career was at 125. The flyweight division in one championship is 135. I'll start with Moraes, the champion. He's a long and lengthy fighter. He's 10 inches taller than Demetrius Johnson. He also throws long strikes. Like, he works behind a jab. His boxing is a little unorthodox because he keeps his hands a little wide, so they kind of come from a outward angle. He likes calf kicks, though in his own fight against Estaquio, his legs were kind of taken out. That was a area that at that time the champion was being successful. He also makes a mistake of keeping his chin a little high, but his striking is secondary to his grappling. He's a good grappler. I mean, he's an elite grappler. He's very good. He's got good entries, good reactionary double. He's got good timing on his double. Great back takes. He's very quick at getting to the back and kind of doing that backpack ride. He's got 9 submission wins. Though one thing that worries about him, he can be a little too aggressive to chase a submission. Like, he'll lose position trying to get that submission. But if you give him an open, he can find it. His last fight, he almost had the Sulov stretch. And that was more, he had it. He just, Estaquio is so insanely tough, he didn't tap. Like, other guys might have tapped. And it was just a sick move. And the other thing I like about Moraes is that he's gone 25 minutes. So he showed that though Johnson has so much championship experience, he himself can go 25 minutes. Now, move on to Demetrius Johnson. We talked about Moraes being out for 2 years. Johnson's been out himself for a year and a half. I mean, obviously this is because of COVID. He's obviously undersized, moving up to 135. Not only is he moving up to I shouldn't say moving up. He's been fighting at 135 his last 3 fights. But I mean, from what we knew him in the UFC, he was the 125 champion. But this is the guy that was reportedly didn't cut weight to make 125, or basically didn't cut much weight for 125. So he was like undersized flyweight in America, a 125 pounder. Now the flyweight at 135 pound in one championship, he's a little undersized. That said, Demetrius Johnson is one of the most talented fighters I've ever seen. He is probably the most well-rounded fighter in MMA history. He's got elite athleticism, incredible elusiveness, so freaking fast, great vision. I talked about how Eddie Alvarez cuts angles during his attacks. Demetrius Johnson might be the best ever at that. He's good at cutting angles. He's good at switching stance and attacking from both sides. He's good at changing his rhythm and his tempo, so you can't really get a lot of timing on him. He's got nonstop pressure where he's going to keep coming at you, going to keep varying his attacks. He doesn't really kind of attack with the same thing over and over again. You never know what's going to come at you. And when he sees an opening, he pounces in a flash. He's not flawless, though. I mean, He was briefly buckled against Danny Kincaid in their fight. But I said briefly because Demetrius Johnson might be the most intelligent fighter of all time. If he gets in a bad position or he loses a round, he doesn't panic. He makes some of the best adjustments in between rounds or just in the fight himself. Like, something's not working, he can change it up. And next minute, like, I've seen where fighters get out to like an early lead on Demetrius Johnson, and then he just flips the script, changes it up, flips the switch, whatever it is, and suddenly he's winning. Now, that was just talking about the feet. We got a hole on the ground with him. He's got incredibly fast entries, great timing on his takedowns. He can kind of press forward takedowns, or he can take you down with reactionary doubles. If he's on top, great top pressure. He advances position so well. Like, he won't just sit in your guard. He'll pass your guard, move to side mount, move to mount. He's got 12 submissions in his career. Probably has the greatest submission of all time, his submission of Ray Borg. He loves, even though he picked up Ray Borg and slammed up, he finished with an armbar. That's kind of a specialty of Demetrious Johnson. He loves attacking arms, whether it be an armbar, whether it be a Kimura, whether it be a key lock. He also has a cardio that doesn't stop. With the 25 minutes, he's going to be going just as hard in the 5th round as he's going in the 1st round. The weakness, if I had to pick one weakness of Demetrious, and I'm really grasping at straws to find something, he has been taken down. Obviously, Henry Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist, took him down. As I said, Olympic gold medalist. Dominic Cruz is one of the greatest wrestlers in MMA, and one of the greatest MMA wrestlers in history, took him down. Tim Elliott took him down. King Ed in his last fight took him down. But that was, I'm looking for a weakness. Now, as far as prediction goes, if Johnson wins, this will be one of the most impressive wins of his career, being that he went overseas, completely changed the organization, moved up in weight class, went against a guy who's big for the weight class and won the title. And you got a big 135-pounder versus a smaller 125-pounder. He's so much smaller than Rice. Despite that, I still think he wins. I really see Rice, his really only advantage on Johnson is being that he's bigger. Yeah, Rice is an incredible grappler. I think maybe he'll get a takedown against Johnson. I just don't see him being able to hold him down. I don't see him getting a submission. I don't see him being able to do that for 25 minutes. And I just think Johnson's attacks, I think he gets up to his feet. I think he presses Rice, and I think he cruises to a decision. And I am so sure of this. I am locking it in. This is my lock of the night. I say Demetrious Johnson adds another incredible achievement to his resume, and he wins the one championship flyweight title. There you guys have it. Those are my picks for all the matches at One Championship's debut on TNT. It's a really fun card. It's a great card for them to introduce themselves to the American crowd. Make comments in the comments. Tell me who you're picking. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm stupid for taking Lapicus in an upset over Eddie Alvarez. Just give me all your picks. And guys, I thank you for listening. Enjoy the fights on TNT.